Late with Sion Marshall. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the host of tonight's show, Sion Marshall.
And good evening. Welcome to this another episode of your favorite Thursday night show, Up Late with Sion Marshall. I am your host, Sion Marshall. And this evening, I promise that we have a great show ahead waiting for you. Because we're going to look at something that is very, very near and dear to me. And I've dealt with it, even though I've dealt with some of the aspects of it on Morning School, my radio show, I believe that tonight I'll be able to go even more in depth with some of the matters that I may not have dealt with adequately on the morning show. So let me welcome all those of you who have joined, whether you're joining from St. Vincent and the Grenadines or you're overseas. I know some individuals may be up very, very late or rather early in the morning, depending on where they are, watching tonight's broadcast. And so I really appreciate and thank you very much for whatever, for the support, I forgot to put up the lights, for the support that you've been giving the show. As always, I would ask you to share the live so that other individuals can be part of this program. So I'm going to lead by example, and I am going to jump in and share the live. Where are we? And of course, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Not that one. I want it on. Where is my feed? Lord. I can't find my feed, you understand? Okay, let's try something else. So, please share the live. I'm doing that now. I'm kind of fumbling and mumbling, but yeah, we will do. So let me look for that. Okay, so there it is. And I am going to share. Right. All right. So I have already posted and I'm sharing live. So let me again thank all those of you who joined and encourage you to share the live and let others know that Uplift with Sion Marshall is on. This week, the government announced that it has awarded about 2,500 Vincentian students with tuition assistance. And you're not hearing wrong. You're not hearing wrong. You did hear me correctly. 2,500 students. That to me is remarkable. These are just students who are currently in university, maybe first or second year, third year, some of them, some with masters, who are, quite a few of them may be doing it distance, others may be on campus and asking for assistance. But it doesn't account for those students in Taiwan, it doesn't account for those students who are in Russia, if there are any there, it doesn't account for students in Cuba, it doesn't account for students who got different awards and bursaries years past. And so if one of Vincentian was to look at calculating the number of students we have at university currently, we may well find that at this moment in time in our history, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has in excess of 3,000 students pursuing university studies. And that is no small feat. That is absolutely remarkable. We are a small country. We are a developing country. We are a country with limited resources. And yet, there is such a commitment to education that our country has possibly at this time in excess of 3,000 students at university. And what is even more remarkable, is that the possibility exists that more than 90%, maybe even 95% of those students are assisted by our government in one way or other. They are either there because they got tuition assistance, they are there because they got a national scholarship exhibition or bursary, they are there because they got one of the scholarships that was negotiated by this government with one of our friendly allies. I mean, think about it. They could also be there because they applied for a disadvantaged student loan. So of the possibly excess of 3,000 students who are at university currently studying, our government is assisting possibly over 90% of those students with their studies. This is unheard of. It is absolutely remarkable. And some may try to deny the magnificence of this feat however they want to, but it does not change the reality that our government is looking out for our students, is committed to education, and because of that, we have a very significant number of students at university, pursuing university studies at this moment in time of our history, the majority of whom are supported, the vast majority of whom are supported by our government. A small minority, a very small minority, maybe those whose parents may have the money to send them on their own, or may have gotten a scholarship that has nothing to do with our government. But I can assure you that maybe 95% of the students who are there are being supported by our government. And that, my friends, is absolutely remarkable. Now, hold on, let me try and make sure, because I'm going to try and also see if I can follow some of your comments as well. All right, so I'm going to switch that so I can see the comments. Hey, my good friend Latoya is on, and those of you who want to comment, you can do so. Latoya says it truly is. Why you want to change for a government who oppose education bothers me a lot. Well, we are going to get into the opposition aspect of our situation, and I'm glad you're joining, and I wanted to share and encourage me. Plenty of information in the show, you know, lots of information in the show, and I really hope that more and more individuals will tune in so we can get information. By the way, Latoya, I hope you have your cup, I hope you have your cup. Hey, the nights are warm, so warm. Wow. I'm sweating you into something. I never found out. But anyway, this evening's program, as you saw from the intro and the caption, I want to look at the politics of hate, the politics of race, the politics of class. And I use those three abstract nouns because they go together. Very often, the individuals who introduce class and race into our politics do so from a place of hate. The individuals who introduce race and class into our politics do so from a place of hate. It is because they have no credible alternative. And so they resort to hate, demonizing one side as a means of consolidating their base and getting their message across. I remember I have very little understanding and recollection of politics prior to, I would say, 1990. The days of Cato in the 1970s and early 80s, I was a little boy. I didn't leave secondary school until the 1990s, 1991 to be exact. So, politics, as for me, was about meetings and rallies and motorcades. Back in the day, they had motorcades, large crowds, and politicians speaking. Never at that point in my life, before I would say 1990, 1991, I never had any appreciation whatsoever of what politics really was. The first time I voted in 1994. And even then, the phenomena of motorcades and so forth still existed. So parties will have rallies on one side of the country or the other, and they will have a motorcade that is moving in the direction of the meeting. And sometimes violence erupted. Mischievous individuals would, stand on a bank and stone a motorcade as the vehicles are passing and those type of things. But I tell you this, it's not until in the 2000s that I really experienced hate. I experienced campaigns fueled by hate. These campaigns did not speak to any particular issue. The objective of the campaign was to demonize the opponent to the point where one party or one side hated the other. Now, I am going to go out on a limb here and say that in my youthful days growing up under former Prime Minister Mitchell, because most of my youth was under Prime Minister Mitchell. By the time Mitchell took over, I was 10 years old, and by the time he left, I was almost 30. So you could understand. So most of my youth, teenage years, young adulthood, under James Mitchell. And I'm trying to recall any instance where Mr. Mitchell himself was the object or subject of such hate. And I'm finding it difficult to remember or to pinpoint any particular time where there was such just raw hate and venom and vitriol against the former Prime Minister. Yes, Calypso sang the picong about Nancy or so on and so forth, and people who felt that he did them injustice spoke to that injustice. But I can't recall at any point of his prime ministership that he was the object or subject of such overt and open hate. Now I know Dr. Gonzalez, from his very early beginnings, because of the ideology he supported, drew skepticism because people didn't understand the politics that spoke to different types of systems, and politicians used that to scare people. And so you heard about communism being this or that, and Dr. Gonzalez was at the time a part of CPM and MNU, associated, aligned with that ideology, and as a result, lots of information that wasn't necessarily correct was spread about Dr. Gonzalez and the communist ideology, and people were very skeptical of him. They loved him, they liked him as a person, but what they knew about him, or what they thought knew about him, which is what they were told about him, wasn't necessarily truthful, but it was enough to scare them into supporting him. Dr. Gonzalez has since teamed up with the St. Labour Party and formed the Unity Labour Party, and that party has been in office since 2001. However, the old stories and the history of misinformation didn't stop. And I go back to 2009, for example, when this country embarked on a referendum to change its constitution. You had those old stories coming back about communism and wanting to draw with elections and putting his face on the money and so forth. But there has been a sustained message of hate surrounding Dr. Gonzalez and the party that he leads. And so anyone associated with Dr. Gonzalez is exposed to hate in varying degrees. If you remember, some of the younger ones may not, but I remember there was a radio personality that hosted the New Times program. His name was Eduardo Lynch. And very often, some of his comments, some of his statements, very hateful, all directed to Dr. Gonzalez. And a lot of lies and misinformation were told to get people angry about Dr. Gonzalez. The attack was on the leader of the party because the truth is the ULP as a party has always bragged on its leadership. That is one of the selling points of the ULP party. It has been from its inception, leadership. And as a result, as a counter to that, the NDP has decided, listen, in order for us to address or counter the leadership argument or the leadership position promoted by the Unity Labour Party, we have to attack the leader. And so there has been a sustained attack of hate against Dr. Gonzalez and against the ULP and against individuals who support Dr. Gonzalez. As a matter of fact, think about it. Individuals who once supported the ULP, and you could look throughout at most of them, if they stop supporting the ULP, they do not come in the public and speak against the policies of the ULP and say, oh, you know what, I used to support the ULP, but its policies are failing. And list them. Education is failing, airport is failing, new hospital is failing, polyclinics and so forth. They do not come out and campaign against the policies of the ULP as failing. Think about it and reflect on it, and you see I'm speaking the truth. They come out attacking the leader, Dr. Gonzalez. And so their entire existence, once they've left the party, seems to be going after the leader of the party, Dr. Gonzalez. Well, we are in another election cycle. And would you believe it? It has started. The New Democratic Party has sent out its... Now, of course, you've had individuals on radio all the time speaking what they're speaking. Very hateful, very disrespectful, but they have so far exercised some restraint in how far they will go. But this week, on national radio, the first dose of NDP hate, race, and class politics was unleashed by one of their favorite sons. An individual who is well known back in days past as a radio personality, a good voice. And I think many individuals liked him. I liked his voice. I thought, I still do think, good voice, voice for radio and so forth. He benefited from the training of St. Vincent and his premier radio station, NBC Radio. Benefited from stalwarts like Nina Maloney and Gene Duncan and those stalwart radio personalities, some of who have gone on. And so he made a name for himself in radio. Tried to start a radio station, it's no longer operational, and eventually apparently he left the country. And so this favorite son of the NDP, I would assume, willingly accepted the task of beginning the hate campaign against Dr. Gonzalez, and boy, did he come out swinging. he did not waste any time demonizing Dr. Gonzalez and spreading the type of hate and vitriol that I thought we had seen the last of years ago. And I thought, at this point in our society, at the time when we have over 3,000 individuals at university, at the time when, after 15 years of the education revolution, we have already had thousands of graduates from university coming through. At a time in our society when our human development index shows that we are more trained, more educated, and hopefully more enlightened, critical thinkers, someone from the past comes to us with the type of politics I believe most Vincentians would reject. But I want you to hear the type of politics to which I refer. In his own words, this is how that individual started his campaign of hate. Not that I was expecting that level of hate from the NDP, but I'm not surprised. So the NDP has sent out its first warrior. The NDP has sent out its first soldier. He has taken guard on behalf of the New Democratic Party, and the politics of hate, race, and class has begun. Listen to him in his own words as he demonizes Dr. Gonzalez.
In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonzalez, my friend, who I bear no ill feelings, no malignant feelings towards. As I've said many times, I am fortunate enough to know that one can like someone, and in fact that one should love someone. We should all love each other, but be able to say, no, I will not accept that from you. We should even love the devil. And trust me, Ralph is the devil incarnate, as are we all. Remember, when you point a finger, three are pointing back at you. Always remember that. So if I say Ralph is the devil incarnate, so am I, so are you, so is anyone who points a finger and says Ralph is the devil. So is that person. So am I. But we must understand the bigger picture. We must understand the context. I am not the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Neither are you. But we must understand the bigger picture. We must understand the context. I am not the Prime Minister.
Ralph Gonzalez is the devil incarnate. Just for safety and security's sake, I had to go to the dictionary and look up what incarnate means. I mean, I heard the word many times in church. I had a pretty good understanding, but I wanted to get the dictionary definition so I wasn't being wrong. And I was told by the dictionary that incarnate means the embodiment of, or in human form. This individual goes on national radio, listened to by hundreds or thousands of people, and says of our Prime Minister, he is the devil in human form. That is not even something I would say jokingly about someone who I don't speak to, let alone someone I consider my friend. I wouldn't say it jokingly. Ralph is the devil in human form. So you understand, without me going any further, that this is clearly an attempt at demonizing him, because you're not mincing words, you're actually calling him the devil. Demon. And he couches it in I don't even know how to describe that, because if I say what's on my what if I say what's on my mind, it may not come out proper. It may not come out proper. I would not refer to an enemy of mine as the devil, let alone someone I say is my friend. And he says, oh, Ralph Gonsalves is the devil incarnate, as are we all, he says. He says, and you have to love the devil. He says, you have to love the devil, or you should rather love the devil. But the Bible that a lot of us read and believe in tells us to resist the devil, because you don't want the devil around you. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. That's what the Bible says. So the devil isn't someone that you are to love up and get close to and entertain. You warn against entertaining the devil. So you don't entertain the devil. You don't engage the devil. You resist the devil because you don't want the devil around you. And so once you hear that coming out in the campaigning, you understand that they are already trying to create a wedge between Vincentians and the leader of the ULP, which is what they've always tried to do, by referring to him in a way that would cause Vincentians to not want to associate with him. Not because of policy, not because of programs, but simply because they believe that the only way of getting the better of him is to have people to resist him, to reject him. And the only how they can get that to happen is if you paint that individual, in this case Dr. Gonsalves, in the worst ways by referring to him as the devil in human form. The devil in human form. So when I say demonize, I'm not stretching it. When I say they are demonizing Dr. Gonsalves, I'm not stretching it. He, Mr. Connell, and the voice, if you haven't figured it out now, Mr. Chester Connell, he did not refer to Dr. Friday as the devil in human form. He didn't refer, even in past tense, to former Prime Minister Mitchell as the devil in human form. As a matter of fact, he referred by name to no other politician, or rather, no other individual as the devil in human form. One individual. So when I say that the NDP politics of demonizing Dr. Gonsalves has begun, it's not a stretch. It's the reality. And now, in demonizing Dr. Gonsalves, the plan is to take everything that Dr. Gonsalves has done, that individuals may be willing to give credit for, and turn it into something negative. The plan is to take everything that Dr. Gonsalves has done, that individuals believe are positive accomplishments. Now those things have to be reduced to devilish things and spun negatively, because it would be impossible for you to think that someone is a devil but the person is out there doing good. And so whatever you think they think might be good or might be applaudable or laudable, they are going to try to diminish those and create a situation where you will believe that those very things, even though they are positive and working for your interest, you are going to believe that they are bad evil, wrong, or have some sinister outcome about them. That's where the campaign is going. Because it's the devil. It's the devil. And you don't expect anything good from the devil. And even if the devil does something good, appears to do something good, you can book it and show that it's really a trick, that the devil is trying to trick you into something. So you can go back to the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. What the devil did. Oh, it's a fruit. The fruit man says it's a good fruit. Trick at the end. When the devil, according to the Bible again, Jesus was in the wilderness. Oh, bow down and worship me and I'll give you all this trick. So the idea is to take everything that the government is doing, the government led by Dr. Gonzalez, that is benefiting Vincentian, trying to create a narrative that it's not really for your benefit. They're trying to trick you. In his rant, he went on to make a couple of statements. He went on, Mr. Connell, to speak about when he elucidated on the whole story of Ralph Gonzalez being the devil and why Ralph Gonzalez is the devil. Why Ralph Gonzalez is the devil. And listen to him in his own words. Go deep into the continued demonizing of Dr. Gonzalez, even taking things that are legal, that are normal, and making those things appear sinister. He continued.
But we must understand the bigger picture. We must understand the context. I am not the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Neither are you or you or you. There's only one person on planet Earth who is the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and he has been so for 25 years, which is unheard of, which is almost unconstitutional. In fact, I would argue that it is, if not de jure, de facto unconstitutional. It is not of the body of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is not something that is good for the body. As Marcus Tullius Cicero says, he infects the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. For the traitor appears not a traitor. This quote speaks exactly to Ralph. And this is not an ad hominem attack. This is not an attack to the man. This is not an attack about Ralph the...
So, according to Chester, Ralph is the devil. And the big picture is that he is the Prime Minister of this country. So, whatever imperfections we have as Vincentians don't matter, because we aren't Prime Minister, but Ralph is. And he goes on to say that he has been Prime Minister for 25 years, which is unheard of. No, technically it's 24 plus, but that's fine. 25 years. He says it's unheard of. He says, in his view, it is, if not de facto, de jure, or some people say de jure, unconstitutional. So now, the devil has St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's unconstitutional because it's the devil. Ralph is the devil, and so the fact that he is even the Prime Minister of this country is unconstitutional for 25 years. That's unheard of, he says. And it's not good for St. Vincent, he says. He says Ralph is rotting the very soul of the nation. I mean, all of this is targeted to one man. Now, I would ask Mr. Connell, at what point does the length of time as Prime Minister start becoming unconstitutional? Is it after 17 years? Because we did have a Prime Minister who started 4 terms as Prime Minister and did it for over 17 years. And I can't remember in all the years of Mr. Connell at 705 NBC Radio that he found the length of time the former Prime Minister was Prime Minister to be unconstitutional or bad before St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I guess up to 17 years it's constitutional and it's good and it doesn't rock the core and it doesn't infect the body politic. And Julius Cicero wouldn't dare refer to former Prime Minister Mitchell as the devil for being the Prime Minister for 16 plus almost 17 years. Absolutely not. That is constitutional. That is heard of, going in for a 4th term. But it's Ralph Gonsalves, one who Mr. Connell considers to be the devil in human flesh. And so, the fact that Dr. Gonsalves is Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and has been that way for almost 25 years annoys Mr. Connell. Annoys Mr. Connell. You know, one of the things about the NDP is that they have never accepted the fact, the reality, that it was Vincentians, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who rejected them, got rid of them from office, and voted someone else. The New Democratic Party has never accepted that fact. As recently as a few days ago, I heard someone on a radio station speaking about the roadblocks of 1999, I believe they were. Protest action that occurred in 1999 and so forth. And when the NDP speaks of that protest action that had roadblocks at different points in our country, you would get the impression, you would think that following the roadblocks, when things were cleared, Ralph walked into the complex and said, "I am now Prime Minister." That there was a coup d'etat and Ralph Gonsalves and Labour took leadership and governance on their own and moved with it. That's what you would think when you hear them talk about it. But in fact, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines went out to free and fair elections and voted out the government led by then Prime Minister Arnie Eustace 12 seats to 3. Seats to 3. And they did so again in 2005 and 2010 and 2015 and 2020. Ralph is on the ballot. He's the leader of the party. The conventions in our type of democracy is that the leader of the party, with the support of the majority of those in parliament, becomes Prime Minister. The people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines know who will be Prime Minister if the ULP wins. And they still voted. And you have someone who wants to sound like someone with some intellect saying to you that in his mind it's not within our politics. So who voted for Dr. Gonsalves? Russians? Albanians? Who voted for the ULP? Middle Easterns? Africans? He says it's unconstitutional. By what measure is it unconstitutional? It is unconstitutional because, one, your party of preference isn't there. And two, the person who's there is someone you truly despise. It doesn't matter how much you try to sound as if, oh, he's my friend. No one speaks that way to someone who they consider as friend. No one. Not even jokingly. So the demonization, first we call him devil, and now we're telling the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that he's not good for the country. As a matter of fact, he rots the core of the nation. And that the fact that he's been Prime Minister, democratically elected for that period, is unconstitutional. Now explain any of that to me, please. Like I'm a 2-year-old child, so it could make some sense. I've always questioned that Dr. Friday has been the representative for the Northern Grenadines for as long as Dr. Gonzalez has been Prime Minister. And there's no one questioning that this one man has been representing these people for 25 years. But it's all about the demonizing of Dr. Gonzalez. And so just the mere fact that he's been democratically elected by these people, by the people of his country, at least by the people of his constituency, and supported by the members of his team to be Prime Minister, is now termed referred to as being unconstitutional. He says, if not de facto, de jure. You know, when people talk about de facto and de jure, they start about in reality, and it's like saying you are the president by name, but somebody else is really the president, the de facto president. So it might not be unconstitutional in law, but in reality, it's unconstitutional. If you really check it out, it's unconstitutional. Well, my readings of the law and my observation of reality says it's neither. It's neither. Because the democratic process of this country, the constitutionally mandated processes of this country are carried out, and individuals in this country with free will exercise their choice. But I have one more clip to play for you. And this clip goes to the heart of what he really wanted to say. You see, it was really a build-up. It was really a build-up. He was building up to get it off his chest because it was there, it was in his crop, as old people would say, building up. And it bubbled and bubbled and bubbled until he couldn't hold it anymore. And so he got to say what he really wanted to say. Let's say what he really wanted to say.
Understand who we are, or we will always be dominated and subjugated and colonized and neo-colonized, as we are being right now, by that Eurocentric Portuguese mind. Ralph has a Eurocentric mind, a brilliant mind, but he uses it to dominate, subjugate, and neo-colonize the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, whom he sees as niggers. Yes, I said it. That's how Ralph sees black people in St. Vincent. Not just as little black boy, but as niggers. The word from 60 years ago when Ralph was a boy. 70 years ago. He's 79. When Ralph was 9 years old, in 19 55? That was the language. That was the language of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You were either nigger or mulatto, which is what would describe somebody of my skin color and my bearing and my social class, mulatto. In other words, you mix up, you're black.
Mulatto, you mix up, you're black. He went on in that clip to say that today Ralph wouldn't dare use the word nigger. But guess what? That individual used it because he afraid. He said what he wanted to say. He said how he felt. He used the word that he wanted to use all along. Because part of his presentation, as he quoted the individual he was quoting, he kept saying that part of the quote is society can survive its fools, which includes the ordinary population. And I really thought he didn't want to just say fools, he wanted to say nigger and them too. But he didn't do that. He restrained himself. And he says, Ralph sees us as niggers. But here's the interesting part I found. He says, because back in the day, you were considered nigger, mulatto, and Portuguese. History tells me that those individuals from Portugal and so forth Madeira came as indentured servants. And so they came to work the plantation. So I guess they might as well have been no better than the slaves. No better than the slaves. So he has demonized Dr. Gonzalez. He has called him the devil. He has said the devil is ruling over us unconstitutionally. And then he said the devil thinks that we are niggers. So it's demonizing. The hate, he's brought in the race. He's not talking about niggers versus Portuguese versus mulatto. But interestingly, when he spoke of mulatto, he introduced the element of class. He says the niggers, the mulattoes who were of a certain class, and the Portuguese. Niggers, zero class. Portuguese, no mention of class. But mulatto, of which he is, that's what he said, you know. The mulatto, of which he is a part, are of a certain class. So Dr. Gonzalez and his people have no class. The vast majority of Vincentians, like myself, no class, we are niggers. But those like Chester are oozing with class. That is where class begins and ends. That is where class begins and ends. And so now he's putting races and classes, he's bringing this class war again into our politics. And you might forgive me when I say, I think that is where his problem is. Class. Because education, which is the great equalizer, have brought the niggers that Chester so despises on the same level or higher than poor old Chester. He is seeing the children of niggers and nigger children going out and excelling. And where he thought he was in a particular class, as he said in the recording just played, he's seeing nigger children, the children of niggers, excelling and going to places where he probably never expected they would ever have gone. Or even worse, places that he thought were reserved for him and people of his class. And so now, our Vincentian young people, the 2,500 who went to collect their bursaries, and the hundreds of thousands more at university, who are improving their status, are being told, you guys are not class, you guys are niggers. The people of real class were the mulattoes, of which he, Chester, belongs, the group he belongs. Then there's Pottery and there's nigger. And that's the politics that Chester has so willingly decided to go out and champion on behalf of the New Democratic Party. And believe you me, we have not heard the last of it. It will get worse. We have not heard the last of that type of campaigning. It will get worse. They will be more emboldened to come out with their hate-filled, racist, classist campaigning to try to create a wedge and to create enmity and to create bad blood between the Vincentian Society and our leaders, and try to make individuals feel that they have no class and they don't belong in this class, and who are you to come in this class, and we are better than you and you're better than. And what they're trying to do is make it as if that is any part of the politics of Dr. Gonzalez. But Dr. Gonzalez has a history of struggle with the working class people of this country. He has a history of struggle with the working class people of this region. And that is why, even while in opposition, he put together a plan designed to lift the standards of living and the quality of life of Vincentians, regardless to whether you are indigenous, of African descent, of Asian descent, of European descent, whatever. And through the implementation of the policies of his government, we are seeing that improvement in the standard of living and the quality of life of Vincentians. So much so that you have an expanded middle class and individuals. Now, it's not just Chester. Do not for a second believe that Chester is alone in this. No, ma'am. No, sir. He has just said the quiet part loud. He has just volunteered to say out loud what many of his people are thinking. Because it's their message. It has always been a part of their message. And so maybe they sent him out to test the water first, champion it. Let's see how Vincentians would react to that type of message. And once the reaction is good, then he expects them to continue. Once the reaction is okay, expect them to continue. But it's up to us to reject it and show them it's not okay. That's not who we are. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we recognize the rich tapestry, to use some fancy words, of who we are. That we are people from various originalities. Put that word in, remember. We are from different ethnic backgrounds, but we all belong here and deserve to live in human dignity together, developing our country. And being get involved in this politics of hate of race, of class. We are rejected. We have to reject the message of Chester and the NDP. Because what that is going to do is it's going to bring violence during an election campaign. Because people are going to start to hate their brother and hate their neighbor. Because individuals like Chester and the NDP are going to tell you, he is different than you. And he is not in your class. And he is supposed to be where you are. Listen, he ain't qualified for that. Many individuals, quite insightfully, called the program and spoke about things that they knew, where Chester was raised, where he was born, and so on and so forth. And it's quite insightful and gave me an understanding of what is really going through this young man's mind, that man's mind. But as I leave you tonight, and I thank you all for tuning in. And I want to share this program because I want individuals to know what to expect from the NDP. They haven't sent out their initial soldier with the message of hate, of race, and of class. The campaign of hate, race, and class. I want you to know and tell people what to expect. And encourage each other to reject that nonsense. Because in today's world, where St. Vincent and the Grenadines is number 6 in the region on the Human Development Index, showing that we are living better quality of life, better education, living longer and all that stuff. At this stage, maybe that would have worked back in 1994 and 1998. But today, with an education revolution in full throttle, with our young people being critical thinkers and being trained at the highest levels academically at universities across the world, tell he, go back with that. And with that, let me thank you for tuning in. And until next Thursday, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and a blessed week.